I was asked to present a little bit about power of attorney and alternatives to guardianship, and that's kind of what I'm sticking to. I'm going to show you a little bit about, talk about guardianship and the alternatives, and then I want to show you people uh, both our website and also the website of Michigan Legal Help that has a lot of information and also resources where persons can uh, either get assistance or do these documents themselves. Uh, so with that little bit of an introduction, I'm going to uh, uh, go from there. I am staff attorney, or actually supervising attorney. I was a staff attorney for 25 years. Just last year, I'm now a supervising attorney of our INR department. And who we are, if people don't know who we are, we were formerly Michigan Protection Advocacy Service. We just changed our name in August, so maybe people are more familiar with us as Michigan PNA. And we are a nonprofit designated by the state of Michigan to enforce the Federal Protection Advocacy Acts. And that means that we, our department provides information referral for about 5,000 to 6,000 clients a year, though we are nowhere going to meet those numbers this year. Our two biggest call questions are special ed and housing. And with the schools closing and with evictions moratorium, our call logs have dropped dramatically this year. So a little bit different than in past years. That's generally our two biggest call areas. Our primary purpose is to investigate abuse and neglect of individuals with disabilities. And we have also to monitor facilities such as mental hospitals, nursing homes, psych wards, prisons, jails, basically anywhere persons with disabilities receive services and could be subjected to abuse or neglect. We're also the state's CAP program for Michigan Rehabilitation Services. So if persons have problems with Michigan Rehabilitation Services or need some advocacy assistance in dealing with Michigan Rehabilitation Services, we are the state's CAP program. This is going to tie into a little bit what we're going to talk about in terms of alternatives. That's the representative payee system that the Social Security Administration has. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. If you have a problem with your representative payee, or if your clients or your students, as they get older, if they have a representative payee appointed by Social Security, we do those investigations for Social Security. Allegations of financial abuse by representative payees. Though those have to be approved by Social Security, we can't just do an investigation. A request has to go to Social Security, they approve it, and then we do the investigations. And in addition to that, we provide direct legal representation on a whole host of issues for persons with disabilities, on disability-related civil rights issues primarily. So with that little introduction to who we are, a guardian, I hope I didn't know who knows what and where things are, so I hope I'm not starting too basic, but basically a guardianship is where a person is chosen to make decisions for another person. And usually the authority of the guardian is spelt out in their letters of guardianship. It can be limited to making decisions for only one or two things. It could be limited to medical, it could be limited to financial, it could be limited to placement issues, or it could be a full guardianship where they make all legal decisions for persons. And there are two primary guardianships types in the state of Michigan. For adults, that's either developmental disabled guardianship or guardianship for a legally incapacitated individual. So with that background, I wanted to get into really more of the issue that we're talking about today, which is alternatives. And so why would a person be interested in alternatives to guardianships? Well, it deprives the ward of the authority to make their own decisions. And what we see with a lot of persons with disabilities as they're transitioning out from as they turn 18, sometimes families feel that they want to get that to put in a guardianship so that they can be helpful and help making decisions. But there are a lot of other alternatives that can achieve those goals of providing assistance without control of a guardianship. And the reason we kind of think that's a better thing to do is that we see a lot of times that it deteriorates the relationship between the ward, particularly if you have a ward and a parent as a guardian. It's a lot of times the ward complaints that we get, and of course, as a disability organization, people coming and seeking their rights to be protected, we're only hearing when there's a conflict, okay? But a lot of times what we hear from wards are they feel that they are kind of in this perpetual state of adolescence where they don't have the legal authority to make their own decisions, but they want their independence. They want to be able to make their own decisions. And so this can lead to frustration, conflict between the ward and the guardian, and it diminishes feelings of self-worth and independence. One reason that's also many times cited to have a guardian is to avoid abuse, but it doesn't necessarily eliminate abuse, and sometimes it can create more situations where a person is vulnerable to abuse. And I think what we hear repeatedly from wards, is that they may not have objected to the appointment of a guardian because they simply thought that the guardian was going to really help them do paperwork, help them access services, but they would still be making all the decisions for themselves. And what we hear from guardians are sometimes, particularly when it's a parental guardian, that's how they started thinking about it too when they first entered into it. But then they're told by the court, you're legally responsible. So if any problem occurs, if they are in a situation where they're vulnerable to injury or harm, the guardian is potentially legally responsible for that. So then guardians, seeing that legal responsibility, they become very leery of giving up control of decision making when legally they're responsible for making those decisions. So when you have wards and potential wards and guardians going into this relationship, maybe having a very different idea of what it's going to be and then what it turns out to be. And for that reason, there's a lot of situations, particularly when the prospective ward is very high functioning, that it is better to maybe have some alternatives to guardianship that can help do these things, achieve the goals that everybody was originally looking at, but eliminate some of the issues of frustration and conflict and lack of independence for the person. What are some alternatives to guardianship? Well, there's the power of attorney that we're going to talk about quite a bit today. And there's also advances for advanced directive for medical care, which are also sometimes called living wills or powers of attorney for medical care. Advanced directive for mental health care or psychiatric care. For financial purposes, if somebody was receiving money from Social Security, SSI, and they did have problems making financial decisions and arranging to pay all of their bills, one alternative to guardianship is you can contact the Social Security Administration and have a representative payee appointed. And then if you're unhappy with that representative payee, you can contact them and also have that representative payee removed. So it gives the person a little bit greater authority and control. The person receiving the benefits, the person with the disability, gives them a little bit more control without having to go through formal legal proceedings and things of that nature. And then again, I talked a little bit earlier about Disability Rights Michigan is the investigative agency for the Social Security Administration if there's an allegation of financial abuse by the representative payee. We investigate those allegations on behalf of Social Security. So I'm going to give you a little bit later in this presentation a link to the Social Security Administration's website where you can see how to go about doing that if somebody is interested in that. Another good resource or alternative is simply having an advocate. Informally done, either family members. There's also available through ARC of Michigan, Disability Network, Michigan Disability Rights Coalition, and other organizations. I'm sure there's many others out there. But it's kind of informal where you can speak with an advocate or somebody and kind of get feedback and ideas about what to do. And they can provide assistance in an informal manner rather than going through a more formal decision-making process or through a more formal court proceeding process. There's supported decision-making, which Mary is going to be speaking about later on. So I'm not going to go into that too in depth, other than to say that it is a decision-making process that involves a lot of things like powers of attorney and that, and working with families and creating a team of persons to support and help a person in making their own decisions, rather than turning that decision-making authority over to a guardian. Trusts can be established that can help a person with financial issues. And also another thing is simple things like a joint or a limited bank accounts that's done through a bank. Setting up payments through automatic payment processes rather than having to remember to do your payments every month, or just some of the things that you can do informally without having to go through a guardianship. Going back to powers of attorney, a power of attorney is a legal document that the person drafts with an attorney, usually, that you can find these online sometimes. I'm not going to give links to those because I'm a little bit reluctant to see what's out there about how accurate they are. I think it's a lot better to go through a legal services organization to get that type of assistance. But what it is a formal document where you give authority to somebody to make legal decisions. But the good thing about it is that you do have some control as the person who's giving away the authority to take that authority back without having to go through a judge to do it, without having to hire attorneys to take it back. And it gives the person who's giving that power up an easier way to take it back. Now, there are non-durable and there are durable powers of attorney. You usually want a durable power of attorney, which simply means that in the legal document, the power of attorney document, you put in there a line that the power of attorney would stay in place if you become unable to make decisions at all for yourself. That way, the person who you've appointed can continue to make legal decisions, and it would continue during the period of disability. So that's kind of the difference between a durable or non-durable, because if you don't put that language in there, if a person becomes legally incapacitated, the power of attorney would end at that point. So this is the part where I want to kind of demonstrate some things, and that's where you can go for help. The first place I'm going to go to, instead of just touting our own website, and I will go to our website because it has a lot of helpful information, but I want to show people legal services and Michigan Legal Help, which has a lot of good information. I just lost my cursor there for a minute. Oh, there it is. Let's see if I can click on there. That are there. Okay, and let me go to full screen on here. Michigan Legal Help has been is pretty much through Michigan Legal Services. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom. This website has been created and was funded by the State Bar Foundation, which, as well as the Michigan Legal Services Corporation of America, and with support from the Michigan Supreme Court. So you know you're getting information from a good source that is helpful, and it's free. And it allows persons to do these do a lot of legal work or address legal issues that they have for themselves on here. Now today, this has a lot of good information. It has landlord-tenant information. It has a whole bunch of different things. I guess I'll click on or I'll show you self-help tools before I get
Chris,
to. Yes.
We are not seeing the website.
Oh, you're not seeing the website.
So my guess is, has it opened on a separate monitor or in a different window?
It's in a different window. So I got to change my shared screen.
I think you just need to click on that window.
Okay. Is it seeing it now? No? Let me see here.
No.
Sometimes I think if you stop share and then redo it, it will get it caught up.
Okay, I'm going to click. Oh, yeah, I see new share. Let's see if that does it. Yes, there. Okay. How's that now?
No change. Click.
There it goes.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
There it goes. Thank you, Chris.
Okay. Okay. So, as I said, this is put together by Michigan Legal Services and has a lot of good information on legal issues for persons who can't afford an attorney or who might want to do it themselves. So you can see the different issues here listed, such as family, personal safety, housing, and we're kind of very focused here today, so I'm not going to go through all these things. But what you could do if you want a power of attorney drafted is you can try calling legal services. They do have their toll-free line on this website. It's not on this particular page, I think. Here, I'll go back to the welcome page. They do have an 800 number where you can call and speak to persons directly through their call center. You can also probably try the need help. They have a little talk line on there. Let me go to one of the documents I talked about that you can do on your own through this website is the designation of patient advocate, where you can allow somebody to make medical decisions for you without having to go through guardianship. And I'm going to just to show people what that can be like. And I just want to give people an idea of this website. I think it's very helpful to people. So I hope you'll get to see that a little bit. So you click on here, you can go through a series of questions where they will, if you click on this, you can go through a series of questions and they'll answer your questions. If you wanted to go to, I'm trying to find there it is, the Advanced Directive for Healthcare, Power of Attorney, click on that. I'm going to click on the county too, for another reason. I'll show you a little bit. Since this is Oakland County, we'll go to Oakland. click on the no thanks for now. Oh, I thought I said no. So you can, here's the forms, so you can do it, do it yourself form. And you can go in and it becomes a fill in the blank form. It's that easy. This can make medical decisions. You can turn over making medical decisions for if you're incapacitated and can't make decisions. You can go to the library and have this printed off and keep it and provide it to your doctors so that they know it and you know what you want in terms of your medical care. Now I switched sites, so are you seeing the power of attorney medical form now? Okay. Let me go back. Back here. Oh, I can't go back. Okay. Let's see here. No. And to try to exit out of here. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Cancel this. What I really wanted to show you is where you can do this on your own computer, but let's say you don't have paper to print or a printer to do these things. I wanted to show you where you can go. It's at the Michigan or at the Oakland County. Here, maybe. Okay. Well, I'm having difficulty here, so. Maybe I will just.
If you hit escape, it might get you out of the full screen.
Okay. Yeah. There. Okay. That's. I need it out of the full screen. Okay. So let me go back to where I was before. There. Okay. So. One thing I wanted to show you is where you can go to get help on this. Let's say you want to just help to print documents off and to do this yourself. You can go to where is it here? They have their self-help centers usually listed on the left. And let's see here, Oakland, COVID-19 articles. Well, it was just here when I looked at this earlier today. It was, oh, here, self-help centers. That's where I wanted to go. Take you. And you can see that this is at the law library at Oakland County Probate or Oakland County Circuit Court. And you can go in there and persons can answer questions. They're not going to answer legal questions. They're not going to provide legal advice, but they'll help you in terms of navigating the system. As even though I'm an attorney for 25 years, I had trouble navigating it just now. But if you need help navigating the system, printing off the forms, they can do that. They also, it's free to print off the forms. You could probably do that at any library. But if you want a little bit of help and guidance, they have trained centers for people to do that. I would encourage any local library to sign up. You can sign up with Michigan Legal Help for your library to become a designated self-help center. And so if anybody has any input with their library and can ask them to maybe do that, I know that they're asking for people to do that. And Oakland is this is the only one listed in Oakland, so I know that there's plenty of libraries in Oakland that could do this. So going back to the presentation now, some other alternatives. MDHHS has a form for The
You want
advanced,
to unshare and reshare the PowerPoint?
oh, okay. You share the PowerPoint. Oh, there. Okay, can you see the MDHHS website now?
Yes.
Okay. They have the form on this website. You can click the link. It's a fill in the blank form. And this advanced directive is for psychiatric care as opposed to usually medical care. So it's a little bit more specified. And it's a good form. I advise people to fill it out with their mental health providers. And you can put things like places you want to go for mental health treatment, places you don't want to go for mental health treatment, bad experiences on some types of medications that you don't want to take again. Those are the different things you can do in advanced directive on that. Back to the PowerPoint, I may see if I click new share. I think I'm getting this now. There, am I back on the PowerPoint now?
Yes.
Okay. The Michigan Elder Justice has, I know this is for persons that are just getting out of high school or transitioning into adulthood. Don't let the name elder scare you away. They have a form there. They have some of the forms on their website at that link. It's a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit too comprehensive almost, because it's like 50 pages long. So that's my one concern with going there. It kind of combines all the forms together. But if you wanted one place with a combined form that covers everything, some persons might consider that a little bit too big of a bite of the apple, a 50-page form to go through. But it does cover everything. And then on our website, I'm going to click on here and do a quick change in the shared screen. Okay. This one. If you go on our main website, you can get resources for information. Go to our resource page and then scroll down to guardianships and alternatives. And there you can find a lot of this information that I've talked about and links to some of the links I've already provided you. But also, if persons have already found themselves in guardianship situations and wanted to end or terminate guardianship, they can do that. Different suggestions for alternatives to guardianship are also on our website, and how to fill out forms and places to go for assistance on that. Like a durable power of attorney, describe what it is, provide links to the Michigan Legal Help. Disability Rights Michigan, right now, we do not actually draft powers of attorney. We used to, but that was for a very limited program, and we no longer have the funding for that. So we don't actually draft those documents anymore. So usually we try to refer people to Michigan Legal Services or do-it-yourself situation, do-it-yourself information. And then I think that covers the alternatives. I did it very briefly or tried to be brief in it, in a nutshell. And I think, Mary, you're going to talk about supported decision-making, so I am not going to get into that. But that's it for me. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Chris, I had a quick question.
Yes.
My name's Lisa Brown. I work in Bloomfield Hills. You said a person can end their guardianship. Are you talking about power of attorney? Because
Did I say end guardianship?
Yes.
I apologize.
Okay.
You can end guardianship, but it's not just do it yourself type thing. You need to appear before court to do that. And that's one of the reasons why power of attorney, which you can terminate yourself by providing notice to anybody who's relied on it, as opposed to ending a guardianship, where it's a very formal legal process. You have to go before the judge. Usually you're going to need an attorney, and you're going to need doctors supporting that petition to terminate. So that's one of the reasons why a power of attorney, you can end yourself as opposed to a guardianship, which you have to go through a court's system, a very formal court process. Unless if it's a DD guardianship. DD guardianships can end if the court does a review or and determines it's no longer needed. They can sometimes end without being renewed. They simply terminate at the end of their time period. But
Okay,
still,
because I was always under the impression that full guardianship or plenary, you could never reverse. And then if you were to do the partial, it was a big deal.
well,
Can I jump in from the advocacy perspective a little bit, Chris?
yeah, you can terminate a full guardianship. It really gets into the particulars of the case, so I'm not. But I just want to say that legally, you can terminate the guardianship, a full guardianship. Our website provides kind of an idea on how to start that. They will appoint legal counsel to do that. In terms of, Mary, what did you ask there?
Well, I just wanted to make a couple comments. So any guardianship can be ended. The difference between power of attorney and ending a guardianship, in power of attorney, the person can give notice that they want to end the power of attorney. They
Right.
don't have to necessarily go back through court.
Exactly.
In
Right.
the situation of a full plenary guardianship, it remains there until they go back through court. And what we're seeing in cases where people, even all the supports around them, the current guardian, the family members, CMH personnel, all supply documentation to, in some cases, to the court saying, we feel like there's sufficient supports, alternative supports in place, that they no longer need a full plenary guardian. And here's the evidence of what's happened, what's changed in this person's life. They've built skills. Even in the face of all of that evidence, there are still times that judges determine to keep the guardianship. Because in a sense, you're asking the court to go back and reverse a previous decision.
Right. And the decision at that point is up to the judge. It's out of the control of the person and of the ward to take back their rights. It's totally in the hands of the judge. And you have to convince this judge to give you back the right to make decisions for yourself. And it may sound simple. It's not simple. You usually are going to need medical support for the petition. You're going to usually need an attorney. In terms of just advising somebody on that, usually what we do is if we represent somebody in trying to terminate a guardianship, to show you how difficult it is, we usually advocate for the judge usually is not going to go from full guardian to no guardian. They usually are more open to making a partial guardian, giving the person more control, letting the person demonstrate that they have the ability to make decisions, to care for themselves, and then maybe terminating it in a later petition. That process can take, 2 years, as opposed to ending a power of attorney, which is simply giving a letter to anybody who's let's say you gave that power of attorney to your bank and you now want to take back control. You simply give your bank a letter saying, I've terminated that power of attorney. I'm doing it myself from now on, or I've chosen somebody else. Much more simple process. Any other questions?
Yes, hi.
Yeah.
Lenore Barshaw from Jardin School. This is a little bit off the topic, but you talked about Social Security. I have a student just last night, actually, his dad texted me. He's 26 years old, severely multiply impaired, and is just receiving SSI and Medicaid. And his dad is wondering if he can keep both his Medicaid insurance and his dad's private insurance from work.
My understanding is, without getting all the specifics or details of that, my understanding is yes. What's going to become the issue is going to be who pays first. My understanding is generally the dad's private insurance is going to have to pay first for things before Medicaid's going to kick in if he's eligible, assuming meets all the eligibility requirements for Medicaid. It's more of a priority issue than complete termination of Medicaid.
That's correct. Medicaid is the payer of last resort.
Okay, thank you.
Typically the case with any public funding, it's always the payer of last resort if private is available.
Okay, thank you.
Chris, we have a question from Matt Lumetta in Waterford Schools. And essentially his question is this: going to probate court involves costs, whether you're trying to establish a guardianship or you're trying to undo a guardianship. And frequently families don't always have the financial resources that they may need in order to accomplish some of that stuff, especially when it comes to different kinds of evaluations or tests or other kinds of information that goes along with establishing need one way or the other. So Matt's question is, are there agencies, organizations, sources that families could tap into to help with some of those costs, specifically around different evaluations or testing that may need to be done?
There are what we've usually done, and I don't know of all the resources, but the two primary ones, first of all, for terminating the guardianship, the ward has the right to appointment of legal counsel. So that can be provided by the county. There are two ways mainly that we get evaluations done. If the person has health insurance, and if the evaluator that we need accepts their insurance, they can simply make appointments and go through that evaluation through their health insurance. Sometimes these evaluations are not covered. A lot of times the evaluations are not covered by health insurance. In those cases, you need to ask for an independent evaluation to be done with the approval of the court and ask that the court pay for it. And that requires a motion of the court, request of the court, and the judge may or may not grant it. So those are resources. I believe CMH might, but I'm a little reluctant to say that, but I think that
Not in Oakland County.
Not in
Oakland County will not do those assessments for guardianship.
Okay. So
there are still some counties in Michigan who do, but many of them are going by way of Oakland County CMH's decision, similar in that they're no longer willing to provide those free of charge.
So those are generally the two ways I know of, is either through your insurance or through filing a motion with the court for an independent evaluation with the county to pay for it. And the judges are reluctant to grant those motions, but they will, and sometimes, but they will a lot of the times, but you still have to convince them, and it's not automatic. So. Other than that, those are the only resources I know off the top of my head.
Thank you, Chris.
Were there any other questions for Chris before I move on to just a couple follow-up issues from our last presentation?
So
I just saw that question. So that's correct. Morker CLS does not specifically provide the assessment needed for guardianship that the court requires. They used to years back, but certainly as funding has become more challenging, we're hoping to educate folks too about supported decision making. MORC does not provide that free of charge anymore.
So I have a question, Chris. If you just a brief estimate of if you were filing for a guardianship and had to pay for the assessments and the attorney, average cost for that for a guardianship versus average cost of filing for a power of attorney.
Well, as somebody who's practiced for 26 years in nonprofits, I have no idea what the private, I'm sorry, I don't mean, I just don't know what private
Okay.
attorney is. It's going to depend on the attorney you hire. If you hire a
Right.
private attorney, they're in charge you probably an hourly fee. You're going to probably want a retainer. And I don't know if legal services provides representation on that issue to obtain guardianship. I don't know if they do that. So I don't.
can just give sort of a family perspective. Most of you know me as, the working for the Developmental Disabilities Council, but I have two different family members over the years. I have an aunt that had Down syndrome who is long since passed away. It was the decision of the generation before me to, when my grandparents passed away, she lived with them up until, her adult life. But as her older sisters, once the grandparents passed away, all had young children of their own, the decision was to get guardianship and for her to live in Lapeer, an institution now closed in Michigan. So I know back then, from having looked back at that information, once I got into the field, that was in the 1960s, maybe early 70s, and it was in the thousands, the cost of doing the guardianship, versus my brother, who, we recently, within the last 3 years, did a medical power of attorney, and it didn't cost him anything. So I know if we had hired a private lawyer to do the medical power of attorney, it would have been, some cost, but typically, when parents ask that question, I would say in general, it's going to cost less for a power of attorney, and the family and the individual retain much more control over who's chosen to be the power of attorney. They're deciding the person they want to be the person to make decisions in that area of the person's life versus a court deciding. And in the case of a public guardian, they may not know that person at all.
There is another question in the chat. Someone is asking if anybody knows, does ARC provide attorney services for guardianship, where they take a $50 annual fee and there are more services that are included with that annual fee?
There are some ARCs that do provide guardianship services in very rare certain circumstances. If you go back to the video that we showed you at the previous training, which I wanted to update people and let you know is now on our website. So if you wanted to direct a family to that, they can go to www.michigan.gov/DD Council. And then go to the supported decision-making button, and under that, it will have the video. You saw Judge Allen and Jan Lampman from Midland County. So in some areas of the state, they had a situation where they had a guardian who was found to be abusing financially their wards, and they had a number of wards. And so the ARC helped with that situation for a period of time, with the idea of helping the court to kind of figure out who really needed guardians and worked with them to protect the finances for those wards during that period of time. So that does sometimes occur. Vicki, you can probably speak more directly to Oakland County.
Yeah, I'm not sure about Oakland ARC. They may be the guardian of certain individuals. I know Macomb ARC is the guardian for some individuals, and that may be more of a historical thing. I don't know if they take on new individuals or not.
Right. Lisa Lapine, who is the director of ARC of Macomb, is a lawyer and is part of our supported decision-making advisory group. And that's certainly something they're, you know, gearing toward and moving toward is fewer guardianships and really supporting and assisting families with the idea of supported decision-making and using those lesser restrictive things like power of attorney or durable medical power of attorney.
Probably a question best asked of Oakland County ARC.
One other thing about guardianships too, I want to let people be aware of this, is that we see a lot of situations too where disputes arise among family members about what's best for the ward. And then there becomes a series of petitions getting filed with the court. The court will sometimes simply throw up their hands and say, no family members are going to be appointed, and we're going to put in a corporate or professional guardianship, which is what nobody intended in the first place. So that does happen. So if you are in a guardianship situation and there's differences of opinion among family members about who should be the guardian, work it out as much as you can among yourselves. If you start throwing it to the judge's hand, the judge might say, I'm not going to give it, I'm going to take it away from any family member and give it to a corporate guardian, because I'm not going to deal with the disputes and the fights back and forth. Even if the family members are all doing it out of real concern or love for the ward, the judge doesn't want to deal with it, or just can't ascertain who is really has the best interest of the ward in place. So just a word of caution on that issue.
Were there any other questions? I'm not seeing any movement in the chat room. So Chris, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming in. I don't have a legal background, so whenever we're talking about powers of attorney, durable medical power of attorney and all of that, I pull in legal expert because my background's in psychology and I don't know as much about the law. Thank you, Chris. I appreciate that. One thing I did want to point out, if I can share my screen just briefly. Are you able to see my screen?
Not yet. There we go.
So there's a variety of resources out there that people can look at. You know, we wanted to talk about that medical piece today. And so if a family comes to you and says, well, you know, we don't really know about guardian, they can make their own decisions about where they live, but, you know, we're concerned about medical. When they go into a medical appointment, we want to make sure, you know, we're kept informed. We want to make sure we know what's happening. We want to make sure the doctors get the real information. So for example, with my brother, he's not a real talkative kind of person. He's not somebody who's going to explain the aches and pains that he may have explained or expressed to a family member or to a staff member, to a doctor that he's not familiar with. And in this age of COVID, it was very important for us that he always have somebody with him when he goes to medical appointments. And so that's been a battle that DD Council has also fought with a number of organizations to make sure that even in the midst of COVID, you know, when hospitals are saying you can't have somebody with you, that people with intellectual and developmental disabilities that have a difficult time communicating can have a trusted person with them when they go to appointments. So I experienced that myself in taking him for a brain scan. And, you know, when I drove up, somebody came out to get, you know, was masked and gloved up and everything and came out to get him. And I was like, I need to go in with him. And they said, you can't. And so we do have, and I will supply this for Matt, information from the state verifying that, yes, indeed they can. That is an ADA accommodation that needs to be made. But I wanted to refer you to this form, and this is just one of many that are out there that is very helpful for families to have with a person with IDD when they go into the hospital. And it's a form that a family member or a trusted staff could fill out. And it just goes through all the things that the doctor might be asking, their history. So it's all written out and it's in their hand when they go into the appointment. So it does help medical personnel to talk directly to the individual because they're asking them questions from the form, and it kind of helps to steer the conversation. It can be filled out where, you know, what this actual medical appointment is for and exactly, you know, what this individual may be telling to staff or to family members that they live with is the issue, all their medications. So this is a nice thing to have available, and we're going to have this up on our website within the week. Medications they take, food allergies, things that they might not be able to say to the medical personnel are all there. So it's kind of like a cheat sheet for the doctor or for the medical personnel. So that's a nice tool that you can direct families to. And again, those will be available on our website. And then the other piece of what I wanted to talk about was some upcoming trainings. So Vicki, do you want to talk a little bit about what we have planned? And then I'll kind of add to the conversation at the end in terms of regional events.
Great. Thanks, Mary. So Mary and I have been working on a 10-month training program that we will begin in January. It'll run through October. It'll be the 4th Tuesdays of each month. It'll be an afternoon training, and then we'll have an evening training. The evening training might be recorded with some live Q&A. And it's about an hour and a half training each month. And we're going to take different aspects of tools for supported decision-making to really give folks a good idea about what those are. January, we'll start off with our general why supported decision-making. And then we're going to go into different tools like the powers of attorney, medical power of attorney, wills, trust, able accounts, life course tools, different things each month. So that really is geared towards any family members, individuals with a disability, anyone who has interest and supports people and want to look at different ways that they can support them. So we're really looking forward to that training. We think we'll have a large capacity that will be all webinars, virtual trainings, so that folks can attend. I'm working on getting social work CEUs. So if we get social workers that want to join us, which we always like them to have more information, they'll at least get some free CEU out of it for each one they attend. So that'll begin in January. We should have the flyer with the list of the 10 topics out the beginning of December. Then each month we'll put out a specific, more detailed flyer about what that month's training is going to be about. And so we'll make sure Matt's on our work group. We'll make sure Matt has that and gets that sent out to everybody.
And to add to that, we've gotten additional requests from Vicki's counterparts at, I want to call it Wayne County Community Mental Health, but it's Wayne County Integrated Health now. So her counterparts there who have also made contact with the Wayne County ISD. And so their hope, and as well as some organizations from Macomb County, are looking at maybe just making that open as a regional kind of event. So we're looking at ways to do that right now. We suspect we'll definitely be up and running in January. We just haven't worked out all of those details of how CEUs will work from different counties and such, but know that that's coming. And then, as I mentioned before, our website is now updated. We have the brochure, we have the position statement. That brochure is kind of a short and abridged first version that you could hand to parents. You can print it from our website. If you want some hard copies to hand out when we're back to more in person, feel free to just email me. And my email was on the previous presentation from the first session. And I can mail those to you. And we also have the video on Jump Drive, if that's something that you want to have in your possession to loan out to parents to take a look at. So that's what we have for today. I'd like to take the last 2 minutes and just any ideas you have on what you would like in any additional presentation. What do you want more information on? What are the most critical areas? Okay, Matt, I'm not seeing anything in the chat room. Are there any further questions before we move on and let you go on to the rest of your day?
This is always that awkward silence while people digest everything and start to formulate their thoughts or try to process their questions. While we're waiting for that, take the first opportunity to thank Mary, Chris, and Vicki for again sharing your very valuable time and talent with us today. We very much appreciate it. We look forward to continuing our learning together next month for part 3 in our 3-part series. And we can get together and make some plans for what to include in that content section. So I don't see any other questions coming in from our audience. I know that these folks have lots of stuff getting ready as they transition to virtual remote instruction for all of our high school students in Oakland County and across the state. So I guess I will close this section by stopping my recording.